We started Monday with some R&R with a trip to the Deep Blue hot springs in Warrnambool to treat ourselves on surviving a week in the car. The thermal springs were just what we needed. They had different pools with a range of temperatures from 30 to 40 degrees and a chilling but strangely addictive plunge pool. We made the most of the spa time and enjoyed some very long hot showers. After a very rejuvenating spa session, we thought it only right to give Pingu, which we've decided to name our car, the spa treatment as well, which I think Holly enjoyed just as much as Pingu did. After this, we made a stop at Tower Hill Reserve, which originated from a volcanic eruption some 35,000 years ago and left a small island within a lake in the middle of a huge crater. Although there was a little rain to begin with, I was feeling pretty good about things before a big bird interaction left me fighting for my tangerine slices. Also, the magpies here sounded pretty cool. We went on another cool walk through the swamps, which enabled you to get really deep into the reeds, no pun intended, and view the various wildlife that the island had on offer. The highlight being a juvenile copperhead snake. Don't worry, we kept our distance and let it be. After the swamps, we had a quick jaunt through the woods and saw ample koalas, as well as finally catching a wallaby on camera. We ended the night at Hawksdale Golf Club, where I managed to improve the lighting setup somewhat in the rooftop tent.
First stop was Port Fairy Visitor Centre before we walked the loop to Port Fairy Lighthouse, walking along beautiful beaches with volcanic rock which has been made into sand and forms a fascinating gradient as the tide comes in and out, and walked back along the promenade. We picked up our lunch and walked to Battery Hill and ate lunch on the beach before heading to the Tyrandurra Fitzroy River Reserve. Another scenic free camp where I shielded from the wind in the rooftop tent and Oscar made a beautiful fire. Wednesday, we went to the Tyrandurra Budgebim cultural landscape, which has rich indigenous history, and learned how the Guditjmara people lived and used the area of aquaculture for over 6,000 years. After this, we headed to Portland, where we visited the Maritime Discovery Centre, which houses a sperm whale skeleton. The museum had an abundance of information on the now banned whaling history of the south of Australia, and contains the lifeboat used to save 19 of the 113 passengers aboard the SS Admella. We headed to our next camp, where we had powered ensuite site, which I did not know existed. We were excited to have an oven again, therefore we had pizzas for dinner, enjoyed the hot showers that didn't shut off after 3 minutes.
We woke up and enjoyed the use of the kitchen again before heading out to Cape Bridgewater to see the Australian fur seal. Along the walk, we passed a beach where we managed to spot 2 seals eating and playing with their food. We continued the walk along the cliffs and noticed a dark patch way out into sea. There was a big commotion of gannets circling and diving and black shapes moving in the water. As we got closer, we noticed they were in fact a pod of dolphins splashing around and clearly feeding. We stopped at various points along the walk and the views just kept getting better and better, really prolonging the walk. We eventually made it to the seal colony viewing platform to watch a few fur seals, but most of them had undoubtedly head out to join the dolphins in the hunt for fish. Our next stop was the Petrified Forest, which are hollow tubes of limestone which have eroded by millions of years of rainfall. Water gathers in shallow pans of sand and seeps down, dissolving the limestone, and the sand cements into these hard, trunk-like shapes. Nearby, there was also the most incredible viewing platform to watch the waves as they crashed into the shore. We stood and watched these waves crashing for a good 20 minutes, giving the suitable oohs and ahs as huge waves collided with each other and the rocks below. With that a befitting end to the Great Ocean Road, we head across the border and stayed in a camp just across the river before we head off proper into South Australia tomorrow.
Friday started slowly, only realising that when we crossed the border the previous day, time had changed and gone back half an hour. So we started by visiting Hell's Hole, which is a sinkhole near to where we had camped, and then we headed to Mount Gambier and stopped at the Visitor Information Centre again. From here, we went to Umfuston Sinkhole, which was remodelled in the 1800s to look more garden-like on the inside with native and exotic plants. At the time, there was water at the bottom, however, this dried up soon after. However, it's still beautiful to visit. Next, we visited the Blue Lake, which, as the name suggests, is a blue lake within a volcanic crater. We left here to go to the Centenary Tower, which gives panoramic views of the Valley Lake, Brown Lake, which dried up in the 1980s. These both sit within their own volcanic crater, and from here you can also see the top of the Blue Lake crater and you see a small glimpse of the Blue Lake itself. Next, we drove to our next free camp, and found that another couple had done the same thing as us. So we joined them for the evening and planned to start the next day of travelling with them.
On Saturday, we headed off bright and early with our new travel partners and went on an early morning coastal walk to the Obelisk, which is a large red and white marking on the edge of the cliff, which was built to improve visibility after there had been so many shipwrecks. After this, we parted ways with our travelling companions, stopping in Kingston to see a big red lobster and refuel. From here, we decided to challenge ourselves with our first bit of off-roading on the sand in Kurang National Park. We entered the beach at the Granites and enjoyed a beautiful drive along the beach. We saw multiple tracks heading off the beach and made a couple attempts to do the same, but with no luck and just kept getting stuck. The rescue tracks luckily proved their worth and did exactly as their name suggested, saving us from a spot of bother. Another car passed us at this point and we decided to continue along the beach to see where they exited to do the same. We crossed paths with the car again and sought their advice regarding how to tackle the four-wheel drive, and after they very kindly helped us decompress our tyres and guided us, we successfully made it off at 28 Mile Crossing and followed them to safer ground. Once we were back on the dirt road, they helped us refill our tyres, made us a cup of tea, and Holly fussed over their two little dogs. Next, we headed to Chinaman Wells, which, as the name suggested, was a well that was used by Chinese workers in the 1850s, who had come to South Australia during a period where there was talk of fortunes in gold mining in Victoria. There was, however, a tax if you came straight into Victoria for work, therefore they would arrive in South Australia and walk over 400 kilometres to Victoria. From here we continued driving in the national park and came across a pink lake, a white lake, and a stick-filled lake, stopping for a short walk to see a pelican nesting site on an island where I got to use my binoculars for the first time. We got to one of the national park's bush camps and had the entire place to ourselves. The weather was starting to pick up, so we enjoyed a bit of outdoors time, enjoyed a sun-heated shower, and even got a beautiful sunset, which Holly enjoyed in a wholesome way with a hot tea, and I was too busy using my binoculars to look at ducks. That rounds out our second week living in the car and touring Australia. See you guys next week. Thanks for watching.